Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is my first video and without taking too long, I just wanted to explain what I created this channel for. This channel exists because I realized that one thing I'm passionate about is the future and the way technology is going to change and influence it, and I wanted to create a channel whereby I can express how I feel about those changes and provide my own opinion on all topics from electric vehicles and space travel all the way to artificial intelligence. But speaking of electric cars, let's get on with the video. So it's finally 2020. A new decade has arrived which will hopefully bring about some crazy technological advancements. In the past decade, we were given the iPad, Amazon's Alexa, reusable space rockets from both SpaceX and Blue Origin, so who knows what's in store for us for the next couple of years. But the past decade did also end on somewhat of an ominous note.
Climate change.
Climate changes.
Now to a dire warning about climate change.
Cars and homes were washed away.
If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon.
We have been increasingly bombarded with news about the state of our environment and planet, and that even though we are trying, we are failing to meet emission targets as well as reduce our dependency on fossil fuels. Naturally, the two go hand in hand with our dependency on fossil fuels leading us to consume more, which leads to greater emissions. One of the largest contributors to emissions is the transport industry, and specifically road transport. All in all, this means that the cars we drive, the buses that transport us, and the trucks that deliver our Amazon deliveries are all contributing to the ever-increasing emissions. To try and fight this, electric vehicles have entered the scene. Now, electric vehicles have always kind of been around in some way, shape or form, but it was only recently that sustainability became popular with mass consciousness. It just happens to coincide with when Tesla was coming out in the market, so they got pretty lucky with being right at the forefront of this change. Also, before Tesla came around, electric vehicles were the ugliest things ever designed. I mean, take a look at this. You're telling me that BMW can design something as stunning as this M3 in 2011, but 2 years later they debut this Hobbit as the first electric vehicle? It's like a Mini Cooper's ugly stepsister. Who'd even want to be seen in that? It was only until Tesla came around with their sporty design and strong performance that people really started to buy into the whole electric vehicle market, since there was finally a car that didn't look like it was straight from Minecraft. Then again, Tesla was also reaching for the wealthier target market, so essentially, they were to electric vehicles what Apple was to smartphones. Building on the growing trend of electric vehicles, Tesla now has a SUV, a kind of cheaper and still good-looking electric vehicle, a semi-truck, a pickup truck that has absolutely no curb in sight, and another sports car on its way that is said to be quicker than a Bugatti Veyron. With Tesla showing that rich people actually do want to spend money on electric vehicles, some of the other high-end car makers have also entered the scene. One of the most notable in recent years is BMW, that has the i8. Most of you guys would have seen this somewhere on the road or at least somewhere on the internet. Now, doesn't this i8 look so much better than its ugly stepsister, the i3? Imagine if BMW came up with this to first compete with Tesla in 2013. It literally does look like the early 2000s car of tomorrow. So props to BMW that they released it in 2015, so only 2 years after the i3, and it might not have sold as well as they would have liked, but it definitely was a step in that right direction, showing that electric vehicles can actually look good and that Tesla's design team wasn't just a fluke. Well, except for the Cybertruck. Seeing that money train that electric vehicles could potentially be, BMW's next electric lineup is something called the BMW Vision M, which will be fully 3D printed and fully electric. Man, does this thing look something out of a movie. Just take a look.
The power of attraction. Can you control it? The drive to move beyond.
Another big name delving into electric vehicles that has been gaining traction in the past couple of years is Porsche with their Taycan. Now this thing looks stunning, and for some reason you can still tell by the look of it that it still has the same electric vehicle styling to it. To me, it seems like electric vehicles are all being designed with that futuristic Blade Runner kind of look. Don't know what I'm talking about? Well, just remember that Audi from iRobot. I remember seeing this thing growing up and imagining how cool it would be to drive it. But coming back to the Taycan, the specs on this thing are crazy, with the max power of 560 kilowatts or 750 horsepower, 1050 newton meters of torque, and 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds. Given that Porsche are track cars and electric vehicles are known for their off-the-line acceleration, the damage a Porsche electric vehicle can do with this performance should just be insane. But if you're like me and you're more accustomed to a Honda Civic than a Porsche or BMW, worry not, because it's not just the luxury car manufacturers that are getting in on the action. There are cheaper electric vehicles coming from VW, Hyundai, and even Tesla. Now, they may not look as nice as some of the more expensive models, but they are starting to look better than the Prius, and at least I'm hopeful that once they roll out their high-end designs, they'll start to focus on the mid and lower ends of the market. Now, if there was ever a brand that came to mind that would be the last to have an electric vehicle, what would that be for you? To me, that would be Ford. When I think of Ford, all I can hear are those loud V8 Mustangs that you can hear from a mile away. Or those massive pickup trucks that are in all the Ford Built Tough videos.
Drop after drop after drop, Ranger responds quickly and confidently, because Ranger is built for tough.
So imagine my surprise when I saw that Ford is making an electric version of both the F-150 and the Mustang. Don't believe me? Here it is.
So we have a very special version of the F-150, and as you can see behind me, we've got 42 trucks representing 42 years of America's best-selling truck. Wow. Also, they line up to over 1,000 feet in terms of distance. So we're going to be taking this prototype, and we're going to be towing 10 double-decker freight cars weighing over 1 million pounds. I've got one major thing that I still haven't told you yet. You guys ready?
Oh, come on.
No. What?
No way.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Dude, it's moving the train.
It's moving the train.
It's going.
It's moving. The
Yep,
vehicle is moving. Yes.
You've got to be kidding me right now.
That is impressive.
That's
She's doing
unreal.
it so easy.
I can feel the weight of the train behind
Yeah,
us.
listen to the motor.
What motor? Unleashed 55 years ago. An icon built for freedom, the open road, power, and rebellion. And just when you think you know where they're going, they do something unexpected.
Something that moves us all forward.
And holds nothing back. The all-electric Mustang Mach-E.
So, from the looks of things, the electric vehicle market is heating up, and it's only looking better as we are seeing some other companies starting to enter. For example, there's Rivian, which is expected to release its fully electric pickup truck and SUV in the latter part of the year. I mean, by looking at these cars, they don't look too bad for a company that just started up a few years ago. Oh, and did I forget that Rivian is also backed by the richest man in the world, well, I guess before the divorce, Jeff Bezos, when Amazon invested $700 million into Rivian. I mean, at this point, Jeff is pretty much competing with Elon Musk for both space travel and electric vehicles, which is pretty funny. Normally, the vehicle market is one of the most saturated markets out there, and any newcomer is destined to die a slow, painful death. Kind of like what Tesla was going through in the past couple of years, But they didn't die, and what they did was instead show us that there was a demand for electric vehicles and that traditional manufacturers failed to anticipate this, which created a gap in the market for other companies to enter. Now everybody is scrambling to get into the electric vehicle lineup or fade into being called dated for not adjusting with the times. Overall, this is good because more competition is always better because we as customers are the ones to benefit from innovative changes as well as cheaper prices. Electric vehicle sales have been growing year over year, and in 2019, electric vehicles made up around 2.5% of the total market. While this doesn't seem like a lot, there are a few things to consider. Firstly, given that vehicles and cars specifically typically have a 10 to 20 year lifespan and electric vehicles have only recently been gaining popularity, we should be seeing a much larger shift in the next decade as people choose their next upgrade to be an electric vehicle, given that all their favorite brands from Audi to BMW to Ford will have a lineup for everything from SUVs to pickup trucks. Secondly, as batteries advance, so too will their range, until they're able to outpace the current range of a traditional vehicle. With that, there's the possibility of even a self-sustaining battery, with certain designers thinking of adding solar panels as roofing. And lastly, good electric vehicles are currently on the pricier end. Once they're made available to the general consumer in the middle and lower income brackets, and them not looking as ugly as the Prius or Nissan Leaf, we will likely see more people choose to adopt them. If we were to look at this innovation adoption lifecycle, I would say we have moved past the innovative stage and are somewhere still in the early adopters. In the next decade, we will more likely move to the early majority until most cars out there are electric. Some European countries have already committed hard on this movement. Take Norway, for example. They want to ban all petrol and diesel cars by 2025. Considering that is only 5 years away, that would be a pretty crazy feat. I for one think that the next few years are going to be crazy when it comes to cars, especially when you take into consideration autonomous driving as well as ride sharing. But that's a topic for another time. All I know is that right now, things are moving faster than we could have predicted, and I wouldn't have it any other way. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching, and if you liked what you saw, please leave a like and subscribe. And if you didn't, please let me know how it can be better in the comments below. Thank you.